Coming up, we have stories about tense living situations, unwelcome honeymoon guests, fiscally irresponsible parents, grocery disagreements, dirty apartments, and we also have multiple spicy stories. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another story for you. Title of this one is Am I the Astronaut? My fiancé and my brother can't get along in a shared house. My fiancé, 23 female, and my brother, 25 male, and I, 26 male, have been living together in my late grandfather's house for about a year now. Before she moved in, it was just me and my brother. The problem is that my fiancé and my brother have really different standards when it comes to cleanliness, and it's been causing issues. Time out right here. Since we didn't do a poll, let's do a guess. Which one do you think is the slob? Is it the girlfriend or is it the brother? Tater, what do you think? Is it the girlfriend or is it the brother? I think about Cece right now. I'm like, Cece's the slob. She's a hot slob. It could be the girlfriend.
I'll go girlfriend, I'll go brother.
Okay, I'll say the girlfriend's the slob.
I'll say brother.
You're gonna say brother? You're probably right, but it does happen. Girls can be slobs too.
Oh, for sure.
The problem is that my fiance and my brother have really different standards when it comes to cleanliness, and it's been causing issues. Okay, so what were the guesses here? Girlfriend, a lot of girlfriend guesses. She complains to me a lot about the mess he leaves.
Hey, I was right.
And when she does, I usually just clean it up myself. Then she gets annoyed and says that I'm a pushover, but honestly, I don't mind doing it. My brother's really sensitive, and if I was constantly bringing stuff up to him, it'd just make things awkward between us. Plus, my fiance knew what the house was like and how my brother is before moving in. Okay, that is something to consider. Lately, it's been getting worse because my brother got a dog. Now, my fiance's been pretty demanding with him, telling him he has to buy certain things, he has to clean up ASAP, etc. It's making the whole house tense. I told her she doesn't really have the authority over him, and she's just making it worse, but she thinks it's my responsibility to make him change. I told her that at the end of the day, she can't make him do anything, and if she has a problem, she should bring it up to him directly, but she doesn't agree. And her family also thinks that I should be the one dealing with it, which is frustrating. So I suggested that if it's bothering her that much, she could just stay at her parents' place for now, and we can just live together after the wedding when we're ready to get our own place. I still see her and her family all the time, so it's not like we'd be apart much. She thinks I'm babying my brother, but I feel like she's overstepping by trying to control how he lives in a shared house. Am I the astronaut for telling her to just accept the situation or consider staying at home until we get our own place? Okay, here's an edit I'll dive into before we really dive into this. Edit, just to add contextual information because people are asking about ownership of the house. It has been inherited by another family member who is letting us live there rent-free. We all split any added bills evenly. Also, our relationship is going great, and we know it isn't a permanent situation. The amount of people suggesting a split up is wild. Getting advice on actual solutions to the situation would be great instead of just ending everything, LOL. Okay, OP makes a lot of really wise points here about saying, hey, look, she was aware of what the situation was before moving in, and if she was going to have an issue that she brought up later on, she should have brought it up then and said, okay, a stipulation to my moving in with you is like, living conditions gotta change. And if she's not willing to talk to him directly, she cannot put the onus of this on you, OP. I do agree with, like, you have the connection with him, having you be an advocate, or you're a mediator right now, and I think that's the only place you should be, right? You have a relationship with both of them. You value the relationship with both of them. It's not like you're going to take sides here, right? You are letting him continue to be the person that he's always been and not asking him to change for your girlfriend, which I respect. You're also to her saying, I'm not going to force you to continue dealing with this discomfort. I'll just clean it up myself. That is the easy way here. She accuses you of babying your brother, but if you forced him to do this, wouldn't you just be babying her? Wouldn't the reverse also be true if that were the case here? I'm going NTA here for telling her to accept the situation or consider staying at home until we get our own place. I'm going to go NTA for that. Now, we do need to talk about the larger implications of this and maybe why people were suggesting a relationship end from this in the first place. Because people are seeing this as not just an isolated incident, and it's not. This is something you do have to think about, right? She has to be willing to handle things that she is uncomfortable with on her own. She has to be willing to take some kind of action there, because think ahead at every potential discomfort she could encounter in life. is that all going to come back to you and you're going to be the one responsible for changing it? Or was this just because this was your brother and you had the connection? That's a fear, right? That's a concern. And I would want to talk through that concern right now and be like, hey, I feel like, first of all, the action you've taken here is a really good hedge against that. It is a really good boundary set up here to be like, no, I'm not sorry. I'm not going to be your mouthpiece every time you have a problem. I'm not going to do that. I've been in that situation before, and it is a really uncomfortable and just dreadful situation to be in. You don't want to be there. I respect that. I respect your approach here. I think you also have to acknowledge that what you've told her to accept the situation as it is or consider staying with her folks until you can get your own place is potentially offensive to her enough for her to end the relationship and be like, well, he's not respecting my wishes. Come on, Tater. What do you think? Get the heat lamp on, everybody.
So, question for you. So when it comes to like a mother-in-law messing with a relationship or something, we always say that the person related to that mother should be the one to bring the problem to the family member because they are family.
Right.
So does that not apply because he's a brother? Because that's his brother. And I do think he is enabling and babying his brother just a little bit. I do think that he is doing that. But I think it's an ESH for me, not an NTA, because I do think there's a common ground that can be found between the two of them. But I would also like to know, how messy is the house? Like, how messy are we talking here? If it's extremely messy and he's enabling that behavior, I mean, you can't ask somebody to move in with you and then say, but she also knew, like you said, which was a good point, knew what it was before she moved in, which is why I think ESH. But I don't know. I think it all hinges on how messy. Like,
what kind of messy?
Is he leaving dirty dishes everywhere? Is he leaving food on the stove? Like, is it gross, or is he just cluttery? Like, those would be things that we would need to know.
So to your point, how we do typically say that it is, the spouse whose family it is, it's their responsibility to address a situation.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little bit less applicable here because it is a shared living space. When we encounter that a lot of times before, it's like somebody taking a targeted action at a spouse. And then in that case, it is the spouse whose family it is, their responsibility to advocate for and protect their loved one, right? Their spouse, their partner. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's not a targeted action. It was an action or a behavior that already existed before she came into it. And because she already knew about it, I feel like it takes a little bit of that onus a little bit away as well. I don't know, but I do still agree. I agree with you. It probably isn't everybody sucks here because everybody could handle this differently. Some people should. I feel like OP could handle this differently. Brother, probably should.
Yeah. If this was me and you were upset about something, like say that we lived with my sister and this was me, I would have a conversation with my sister before I told you to move out and just stay at your parents' house until. Like, I would have that conversation and be like, hey, do you think that, and I would pick like, what's the top 3 things that are bothering you? Let's start there and see if he's willing to even improve on these things and say, and like just find some common ground so that you still get to live with your fiance and like you still have that. But I do think that you can help your brother grow in that area instead of just saying this is who he is, accept it or don't. I would try to work to find some common ground between the two, whether or not that's, I don't know what that looks like because I don't know how dirty it is.
Your timeline of like, I would have the conversation with my brother before I would ask or tell you, if you don't like it, leave.
Yeah. And Wonder Woman said knowing about it beforehand and living in it are 2 different things.
That's true.
And I do agree with that because you don't look at it the same way when it's not your safe space, when it's not your room and your home. You do gauge things differently. So I do understand that point of view. I still think it's an ESH because she did know, and like I think coming to a common ground would be the best plan for everyone.
Smash that ESH button, Tater.
Yeah. Boop. Boop. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Those are good thoughts. Thank you. I knew I was missing a perspective here. You provided it thoughtfully. Mwah. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with yet another story for you. This one is Am I the Astronaut for demanding that my fiance's parents change their plans to have a vacation at the same place as our honeymoon. My fiance and I have our wedding coming up in April. We had brainstormed for a while on where best to spend our honeymoon. We went over the more popular and well-known places, but then landed on a more offbeat destination that I felt would truly be a great place for us to start our life as a married couple. I've been looking forward to it being just the two of us. I know he has a really hectic work schedule, and we were going to make the most out of it. A couple of days ago, he told me that his parents had been impressed by how hyped I was about it, and were planning on going there for a vacation too, largely overlapping with our dates. They're staying at the same hotel as us. No. I was livid. They can go any other time. Why now? He said he had suggested that, but his mom said they had taken time off for the wedding too, and it worked well into their plans. Also, that since we're going to be going back, it'll allow them to maybe see us a few times before we leave. I was almost in tears. I was so angry. He tried to reassure me, saying they had promised it'll be two separate things and they won't be inserting themselves into our honeymoon. They want us to enjoy it and they'd be doing their own thing. I want to believe it, but I know his mom. I like her as a soon-to-be mother-in-law, but she can be very clingy and routinely laments how far he, and now us, are from them. So I just have a feeling the two plans are not going to be as independent as he thinks they'll be. I vented about it to my parents too. My mom agreed with me that it isn't right. My dad is more on the fence about it. He doesn't think everything is ruined. I've demanded that my fiance make them change their plans. He said he asked them to. They promised to do their own thing. What can he do? Tell them he doesn't believe them and call them liars? I messed up here and said if that's what it takes. He got quiet. I realized that was too much and sincerely apologized for crossing the line. This has been eating me up. I was envisioning a certain type of honeymoon and this happened. Am I the astronaut? Okay. There is an update to this. Before we dive into the update, I understand her fears, but also I feel like there's an approach here that is like, I want to help my partner understand why I am so opposed to this. I want them to feel as opposed to this as I am and advocate because they want to, not because they're going to be my mouthpiece. I do believe it is his responsibility to try to prevent this from happening, but you can't disallow them. You can't tell them they are forbidden, can you? Like you can't outlaw them from going. You can tell them, look, if you do this, this is going to damage the relationship. And this is where I feel like OP's partner should have thought a little bit more about the team status of he and his soon-to-be wife. Should have thought, hey, folks, look, I understand you want to go do this, and I understand you say it'll be two separate things. It's still something that is going to cause some damage, right? It's something that will always kind of be in the back of our minds. And if we're going to the pool or going somewhere, going to dinner, and even just walk by you guys, what are we supposed to do? Just pretend like we don't know you? Like, it is going to be a thing, no matter how much you try to not make it be a thing. And it being a thing, as much as we love you guys and would love to see you, this is our honeymoon. This has to be just the two of us. It needs to be just the two of us, and there will be damage to the relationship if you go. And help them understand what's at risk here. Because right now, OP, the way you've approached it is, at least to your partner, you have to do this. You demanded it of him. So now he feels like he's just going to be your mouthpiece. And now if he conveys it the way that he received it, it's going to seem like you're just a huge bitch. I don't believe that's truly the case. I feel like there's a better approach to take here to achieve what you're wanting to achieve. They shouldn't go. It's shitty that they're even talking about going, but getting them to not go is the mission here, right? How do you get them to not go without coming across as a really huge bitch? That's the question. Updates! Hi, thank you for the advice in the original post. I thought over this more. I was heartened by the response here because I thought I was the one being OTT about this, but I saw that most people agreed that what they're doing isn't right. I really didn't want to change plans, so I planned to talk to him again, speaking respectfully about his parents but firm, because last time I had gone over the line a bit, which had derailed our conversation. We met yesterday after work. I raised the issue with him again. I said that he knows how much I'd been looking forward to our honeymoon. I only plan on having it once, and his parents being there will ruin it for both of us. I also said that I didn't want to change anything about it, not the hotel or the destination. It just wasn't fair. He said he doesn't like that they're coming either, but they're giving their word not to interfere. But to me, it's not about believing them, just that the honeymoon I had in mind is going to get ruined with them around. I told him that this wasn't a trivial annoyance for me. This was actually making me unhappy, and I need him to do something about it. He said he would handle it. Well, first he told me that knowing his parents, especially his mom, she's going to feel slighted by us. We're going to be living a 3-hour flight away from them, him, so it's not like we're going to see them too often, but he said he just wanted me to know that it was going to happen. Time out! Time out! Remember what I just said about, hey, Ma, if you guys do this, there will be damage to the relationship. We now know he's capable of doing that because he just did it to his fiance. About his mom getting butthurt and that relationship being hurt. You're sending it the wrong direction here, fella. It's the wrong direction, the wrong application, right tool, wrong place. I said I'm fine with that. Probably could have been more tactful, but he found it amusing. He said he'll handle it, so I waited. Last night he told me his parents were canceling their plan. I asked him how it went. He said it went fine. They said it would be 2 separate plans, but he told them their plan was becoming a problem and asked them to change their plan. It would mean a lot to him. So they did. They hadn't booked tickets yet, but they're looking into either getting a refund on their hotel reservations or my fiance suggested delaying it to sometime later in the future. I told him I was sorry that he had been put in this position, but I was just so happy about it. I started tearing up too. This had just been bearing on me so heavily, and I was so glad it was back to the way I have it in my mind. Also, I know the stress of wedding and work has been bearing on him too, and I didn't like adding this extra stress onto him either. He said it was a very short and simple combo with his parents. I thought there would be a big argument because they hadn't been swayed previously. My parents were also really happy for me. My dad thinks it wouldn't hurt to call my mother-in-law and just apologize for what happened. Not in a, I'm sorry I did this, but way more of a, I'm sorry this happened way. My mom thinks there's no need. My fiance thinks it's up to me. I'm really glad I came here and found out that I wasn't overreacting or I wouldn't have had the confidence to ask for my honeymoon back. Thank you. There's another edit. Thoughts at this point? Tater, I see you like biting your tongue over there.
No, I don't know.
Here's the problem. You don't know what the damage is yet. It was a short swimple. It was swimple. It was swift and simple. Swimple.
Your new poodle can be your noodle.
It was a short and simple conversation. That doesn't mean that the effects will not be drawn out and complicated. And he's a dude, so he's not going to be as in tune to this, and he probably hasn't experienced the true wrath of mama before when it comes to relationships. So he doesn't know what to expect either. I think there will be problems. And it pisses me off that he did the, you're going to damage this relationship speech to his fiance instead of his folks. Here's the edit. There won't be any apologies. His parents had asked for pictures from us during our honeymoon. I'm not sending shit. His mom complained about me to my mom that I'm not making an effort to become a part of the family, how hostile I was, and how I didn't understand the importance of relationships.
Oh my God.
My mom stood up for me and said I have no duty to anybody except for my soon-to-be husband. I take back whatever I might have said about me generally liking my soon-to-be mother-in-law. I'm done. They've canceled their vacation. That's what I wanted. I'm going to smile for the family pictures at the wedding, and once we fly out, I'm done with her. See? And now, your presumably now husband knows what the true wrath of mama in relationships at least, what it looks and feels like. It's like, oh, yeah, I thought that conversation was a little too easy. You think? She started plotting before you even hung up from that call. She was plotting. The fact that she called your mom to bitch about you instead of calling you to have a conversation. I think it's really funny now going back to what your mom said when your dad was like, hey, I think it'd be worth a phone call for an I'm sorry this happened. And your mom's like, oh, it's fine. Now your mom's like, oh, she's a bitch, honey. I'm glad you didn't call. Tater Thunder, what do you think? Put yourself in this situation. Before knowing what mama's reaction is going to be, how would you have wanted to approach this whole thing?
First of all, I want somebody to call my mom and complain about me.
You do?
Because if you think I'm spicy, you should meet my mom. No, that it would not go well for the person that's calling to complain. This whole story was just like mind blown emoji. The fact that she called her mom to complain, to tattle. She called her mom to tattle on a grown woman, and I'm like, on what planet? Her entitlement is just off the charts. It's wild to me that she just thinks that anything that she has done up to this point is okay. This isn't about relationships, and I think 100% we know that they would not have left. Mother-in-law would not have left the new couple alone on their honeymoon. That is very clear by the way that she acted once
she would have started
canceled.
Planning excursions with your new husband.
Right. I know. And knowing, so I have a question for chat, but knowing what we know now, about mother-in-laws, how many stories that we've read and how the husband acts towards the mom, do you think that she should go through with the wedding?
Look, now we're into like a sins of the father kind of territory, right? I mean, it depends. I think it would have to depend on a conversation with your soon-to-be husband here.
Yeah.
And it would be like, hey, look, where do you stand on this? And try to get an idea of where they stand. Because Amy Castro, I think you're 100% right. It doesn't matter if you are done with mother-in-law, unless your partner is done with their mother.
Yep.
You are not done with mother-in-law. So there has to be a conversation there and a mutual understanding and an agreement in place for you to know if that's safe to proceed with.
I think it's just in a standard, like, don't do this thing. Don't follow your children on their honeymoon. Just don't do it. Like, I think that should just be like a normal thing. Like, let's just normalize that right now and make it a thing. Because don't follow your kids.
But John, I've seen all of his first.
Yeah.
I'm not about to miss the first time he makes whoopee.
Oh my God. The only saving
What if
grace.
he needs help? What if he needs tips?
Mother-in-law should have never done this. Like, this should have never even been a thing. I 100% believe that it was mother-in-law the whole way. She planned the trip. They didn't even have their tickets yet. Like, they had just booked the hotel. Like, it all feels very intentional. It feels purposeful. Like, she did it to be like a helicopter-y, bitchy, I don't know what she's doing. But she planted a flag, and I think it's up to the hubby. What she did with calling her mom and how he reacts to that is going to be what would decide whether or not I move forward with this wedding. Their saving grace is that they live, a 3-hour plane ride away, so a long ways away from them, and she doesn't have to see him all the time, but I don't know. You're making your husband choose between you and his mom, and I would need to know the reaction of how that's going to go, because I think it's... I don't know. Yeah,
I think it does all come back to hubby here. And it's got to be like, okay, I need to know where you stand here, because if we're not unified at this moment, there are definitely going to be problems down the road. I do not think that what mother-in-law wanted to do was right. And I'm putting onus of that action and wanting to do that vacation there on her. And I know that was both of them, both father-in-law and mother-in-law, but I'm putting it on her because she's the one who called and tattled after the fact.
I think like talking to her and son at the same time would be
that's
something.
Your best shot of fixing it.
That's your best shot of making sure that he's doing his job on that end.
I have a feeling if you try to talk to mother-in-law in front of son, what you get from her is going to be a show. I feel like you got to get her one-on-one and get her to open up and have a real open and honest conversation with you.
Possibly.
And the same with him, but who knows? That's a tough situation to be in. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder, and I got a spicy story for you. It's spicy time. Here we go. Title of this spicy story is, My Husband Lied About Coming to Help Me While I Was Critically Sick. I, 28 female, have been married to my husband, 32 male, for 3 years. We have a 1-year-old daughter together. Up until recently, I thought I could count on him when I truly needed him, but last week, he proved me completely wrong. I had been feeling off for a couple of days, fatigued, nauseous, just generally unwell. Then one morning I woke up with a fever, chills, and a deep sense that something was really wrong. I was so weak I could barely get out of bed. Taking care of our daughter felt impossible. I called my husband at work and told him I needed him to come home. He promised he would. An hour passed. Then 2. He kept texting me saying he was just finishing something up and would leave soon. Then he claimed he was stuck in traffic. Then he said he was on his way but had to stop for gas. At this point, my fever was getting worse, and I was struggling to even sit up without feeling dizzy. I told him it was urgent. He reassured me he was almost there. But something felt off, so I texted one of his coworkers, someone I knew he was close with. The response I got sent a chill down my spine. He hasn't left yet. He's still here. Oh no. Why, dude? Why? I was furious and terrified. I immediately called my neighbor, a kind older. She came over right away and helped me get dressed and drove me to the hospital. Turns out I had severe asymptomatic urinary tract infection that had turned into a serious kidney infection. My heart rate was dangerously high, and the doctors told me that if I had waited much longer, I would have gone into septic shock. 2 hours later, while I was lying in that hospital bed, shaking from fever and hooked up to an IV, my husband finally finally decided to show up. I didn't even want to look at him. He tried to explain, saying he didn't realize it was that bad and that he was just trying to wrap things up at work. But I can't get over the fact that he lied to me over and over while I was at home struggling to stay conscious. If my neighbor hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened to me. I feel so betrayed. If he could ignore me in a life-threatening situation, what does that say about our marriage, about our future, about our daughter's safety if something ever happens again? I don't know what to do. Would you be able to trust your partner after something like this? You found an update? What serendipitous timing you have. Okay, we'll talk for a second while Tony Spark is throwing the update over here to the doc. No. Okay, so no. I mean, trust is earned, right? And a tremendous amount of trust was lost here. Like 100% of it. If you're gonna lie when I'm telling you this is a serious emergent situation, number one, you. Number two, how am I supposed to believe anything that you say? If you lie about the big stuff, you're sure as shit gonna lie about the little stuff, right? Second part of that is I would say all of those things if there wasn't a 1-year-old kid involved. The fact that there's a 1-year-old kid involved means that you have epically failed as a husband and father. I feel like every dad kind of has this innate need to protect their family. And when there is a cry for help, like when your family is in distress, that is the time where that part of you is like enabled and you freaking fly. And instead you lied. Hadn't even left yet. Not just hadn't left, not just weren't in a hurry, but were lying about it just to try to shut her up. Right now, this is black hole level assholery for me. This is just unforgivable. Unforgivable. Mama B, you know what? I think that's fair. So I think a lot of probably sperm donors don't have that built-in need or feeling to protect, right? I'm sure there are plenty out there that don't have it, but boy, and maybe he just doesn't. It's not an excuse. It's just it's a disappointment. Here's the update. I'm feeling better and finally back home after a few days in the hospital. My parents came to pick up my daughter and took care of her while I was away. They live 4 hours away, so I hadn't asked for their help earlier. I didn't really get an apology from him, just a bunch of excuses. Are you shitting me? He said he didn't think that it was that serious and I should have just gone to the neighbor if it really was that bad. I didn't argue, not because I agree, but because some of the comments I got made me realize some things. People asked if I'm the type to cry wolf, and that's why he didn't come. In 5 years of being together, I've only ever needed him to take me to the hospital once when I gave birth to our daughter. He wasn't there when I was sick. If he had come home, he probably wouldn't have done much anyway if it didn't need a hospital. But then someone asked me what I would do if our daughter was in my position, and he acted the same way. That hit me hard. And as dramatic as it sounds, I don't want to be with him anymore. I don't think I can ever trust him again. I've made an appointment with a lawyer, but of course divorce takes time. I'm looking for an apartment, but the housing shortage is a nightmare. Since I live in a rural area though, there's still hope. I haven't told him yet. He's acting like nothing is wrong, so I'm doing the same. I even saw comments suggesting that he might not actually have been at work, maybe using it as an excuse for something else. So one night while he was sleeping, I checked his phone. I couldn't find proof that he wasn't at work, but I did find messages to women, multiple flirty ones, and a Tinder app. These messages have been going on for months. He was also sending TikToks to his friends while I was sick, laughing and joking around with no real concern for me. He told me his boss refused to give him time off. I found no evidence that he even asked for time off or discussed my condition with anyone. I'm starting to suspect that he lied because if he really did ask, it would have been illegal for his boss to deny him leave where I live. At this point, I don't feel like confronting him. I just want out. I ignored the red flags before, the small lies, broken promises, and I shouldn't have. I thought he would be there for me when it mattered most, but I guess I was naive. I never thought anybody could let me down like this. I'm not telling him I'm leaving until I'm ready, just like he didn't tell me he wasn't coming. Well, that's definitely not the update that we wanted. What could have prevented this? I guess that's my question now. Well, for starters, he would have had to deliver an actual apology instead of just making more excuses. Not even doing that. After you're farting around and lying about being on the way home and you find out that your wife is in the hospital. Oh, and guess what? Your 1-year-old is with her because she has to be with her because you're not there. Wouldn't you be like, I'm so sorry. I am an idiot. Like I don't know why I thought that, but I thought that and I am an idiot, and there would be groveling and there would be proof to the contrary of behavior, right? There would be proof that he was going to try. There would be proof that he would never do anything like this again. And instead, he just continued his previous behavior of making excuses. Shit, he even made excuses while he was lying. He's like, oh, traffic is terrible. I had to get gas. Even his lies were excuses. Could it be prevented? He would have had to do the complete opposite of what he did. Like, there probably was a path out of that. From him screwing up that bad, it would have been a very, very long and difficult path. It would not have been swimple. Is it what I said before? Swimple? It would not have been swimple. No swimple. Difficult. It would have been difficult. Hey, it's Dusty with another spicy story for you. I need to do this again. Title of this one is My Fiance Dumped Me Because I Got Into a Discussion with His Ex. Discussion is not in quotation marks here, but I feel like it should be. I got into a discussion. It was a bar fight, but still. He broke up with me today during lunch like it was a business meeting. This week, his ex got sick, and he wanted to bring their little daughter here on Sunday so the ex could rest. I asked him to wait until Tuesday because I was super tired from work. He got mad, and we fought. Time out. Okay, the issue at hand was, hey, I need to bring my daughter here where she also lives because her mom is sick. And OP was like, just wait, okay, because I'm like super tired. I'm like, oh, hold on. No, that's my kid. That's a package deal. She lives here too. You don't get to say she doesn't get to come to her house today. On Monday, he decided to do all of his ex's duties. He picked her up and dropped her off at school, cleaned the house, took care of her, and even took her to the doctor. He got home ridiculously late and always said he was tired when he got in. And always? Okay. On Thursday, his youngest daughter stayed with his mom, and his son went to study at a friend's place. He went to work as usual, and that day, we went to lunch together. In the middle of lunch, his ex calls asking if he had seen her car keys because she wanted to go to the store to buy ingredients for soup or something. And of course, he goes to check the car keychain, and her key is right there. I don't know what went on in his head, but it was there. After the call ended, I felt like I had to put a stop to it. I told him I could take the keys and go with her to the store, and he agreed because he had an appointment after lunch. Okay, I feel like this is an important note. He agreed to OP going with her. His involvement being over there, like cleaning her house and taking her to the doctor and stuff, his ex, could be considered weird, right? But here, offering to let his current partner do it, I feels like clears it up a little bit. I was out of my mind trying to deal with it, but I was so pissed. When I got to her place, I went straight to her door and threw the keys at her. I said a bunch of things I didn't think through, but I said what I was feeling. I hated how she always made him focus on her, how he always took care of her, how he was with her. I said her only redeeming quality was being a teen mom, and that she and her kids were ruining my fiance's life. Or you're putting this on the kids now. Okay. Cool. Maybe I went too far because I told her she was such a trashy person that she couldn't even hold down a relationship or set a good example for her daughter. She just went like King's Landing Khaleesi here. And it's just like, burn everything. Burn it all! I don't know if she's a psychopath or something, but she didn't show any reaction. She said, at least I'm not here for a year desperately trying to rewrite my fiance's story. She slammed the door in my face. I tried to talk to her, but she didn't come out. Which was, I'm sure, very cordial. You bitch, get back out here. I ain't done talking to you. That night, my fiance didn't come home. Not even in the morning to grab his stuff. I spent the night calling him and her, but neither of them answered. After dozens of calls, he called me today and asked me to meet him at the restaurant we always go to for lunch. We don't work well together. I'd rather end our story here. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream, but I just asked him if he had slept with her while we were together. And he said yes last night. He told me he was willing to give me any answer I wanted, but if I went anywhere near her or her kids, I would regret it. Well, I guess I'm the villain in their beautiful love story.
She's a psychopath because she didn't freak out.
Yeah, I don't know if she's a psychopath or something because, like, she was calm and I was not. Yeah, this kind of supports the whole, like, everybody thinks they're doing the right thing, right? Depending on their worldview or according to their beliefs and their truth and their worldview, everybody's thinks they're doing the right thing. Her worldview is what she just told us. Like, she thinks she's doing the right thing here. She thinks that his ex is purely manipulating and controlling him to keep control over him. And maybe there is an element of that going on, but if there is an element of that going on, this ain't the way to fix it. This is just the way to make sure that your relationship doesn't last, right? Saying to him, I'll do this one thing, I'll handle it, and then instead going over there and throwing a huge hissy fit because you're not getting your way isn't gonna create any good. She just created more problems for her and everybody else. I don't believe he slept with her. I think he said it to make her go away. He's there. It feels like he was there when his kids needed him. And if they're civil and they get along and they're friends, then you can do things like take somebody to the doctor and that's okay. Like those post-marriage civil relationships do exist, I'm sure. I don't believe he slept with her. I think he was just like, look, I'm willing to give you any answer you want means I'll tell you whatever I need to tell you to make you go away for good. I'll say anything you want, but if you ever come around her or her kids, you're going to regret it. He's doing what he needs to do. Maybe he did though. Maybe this all was manipulation on her part, and maybe she finally got what she wanted. It still doesn't make OP's actions right? It was, I'm gonna give it this. Giving her to Lulu. I'm gonna throw her up here too. I mean, for her being selfish enough to say, I don't want your kids over here. It's probably black hole worthy, but I'm giving her ASCOM 1. Faith Reacts, dropping the 5, said, nope, I'm with the fiance. OPDFHB rejected. He needs to run far from you. Who knows how she would treat his kids. Oh God. How she's already treating them. If she has the stones to be like, I don't want them here. So that's all you need to know. All you need to know. Yeah, I don't know. How did they get to fiance status? She must have hidden this side of her for long enough. How did he keep the relationship going after she said shit like, I don't want your kids here? I've had a really long day. I'm really tired. Can't really handle the kids right now. Here it is, another spicy story, ladies and gentlemen. This one comes from AITA and is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Begging My Sister to Let Us Adopt My Nephew? I just had a miscarriage 3 months ago, and my husband and I tried so hard for that to be our stick baby. Within the past year, we've had 6 miscarriages. We are devastated, but we are not willing to give up on trying for our own. Someday, it will happen. This past month, my sister welcomed her newborn into this world. He is my second nephew and the most precious thing in the world. I adore him so much. During my sister's pregnancy, I was a major part of it, and she is aware of all of our losses, and she knows how badly we want a baby. We want one so bad, it hurts. After our miscarriage, we suggested we name her son after the baby we miscarried. His name would have been Noah. My sister said she found it a little intruding and ultimately declined. We were devastated, but we respected her decision. Once it got closer to her induction date, we suggested giving her a ride there, and I offered to be in the room with her. I begged her to let me cut his umbilical cord and for him to be placed on my chest immediately after birth, but she wouldn't let me. I felt such a connection with him since the moment I heard his heartbeat, and I felt like he is the piece of us that is missing and the child we lost. This past week, my sister has been telling us how hard motherhood is, and we offered to adopt him and treat him as our own. We want him so badly, and we love him to pieces. My sister declined and asked that I give her space and to not contact her for a little while she gets her mind straight. We begged her and told her how much this would mean to us. She is currently struggling financially as well. My husband and I plan on calling CPS and an adoption lawyer to see what they think is best for him and my family. My husband and I plan on calling CPS and an adoption lawyer to see what they think is best for him, and my family has since been calling and telling me I'm an asshole and to leave my sister alone. They also demanded we get help, but all I'm trying to do is get custody of my nephew. Am I the astronaut?
Yes.
It's worse than we thought. It's worse than we thought. It's way worse. Yeah, we got a few things to talk about here. Okay, yes, it's the worst of the worst. We're gonna go Delulu on here as well. Look, that can be a intensely traumatic thing. An intensely traumatic thing to go through, right? Like, I can't imagine like accumulating this amount of loss. I can't, in a year's time, I can't imagine going through that. However, there's still the ability to know right from wrong, isn't there? No matter how deep you dive into this, you still know right from wrong. And It's premeditated, and that's the problem. It's feeding into this fantasy where none of your offers for help come from a pure place of truly wanting to help. All of these offers of help come from a place of selfish desire. You didn't want to help be in the room to be her emotional support. You didn't want to give her a ride to truly be a good person. You are obsessing and fixating, and it's dangerous. You're being really pushy right now, and it's not pushy at all to you. So where's the line? Where's the line to you? Because based on your worldview and your beliefs right now, you're of the mindset that going over there and taking this baby by force right now would be the right thing to do. And it is not. You two definitely need help. Definitely need some intensive therapy. I can't imagine the amount of pain that you're going through. This is not the answer. And you're going to destroy all the relationships around you and silo yourself from the people that you are going to need as a support network for yourself. If you are going to climb out of this emotional hole, there has to be enough shock to the system at some point to realize that you're running the wrong way. Has to be. And no less like trying to wrap my brain around it. And I'm surprised that your sister let it get this far. I'm sure the fact that she is not in great financial shape is a large contributor to that. And I'm sure that you manipulated that to make sure you got as much time with that baby as possible, just manipulating the holy shit out of this woman. And instead of really trying to help her to help give this child the best life possible, you're just trying to manipulate to get it all for yourself. My leash keeps me from getting too far. Tater Thunder.
You guys know I've had miscarriages, and and they hurt and they suck, and I don't think it's something that you ever move past. But if you find yourself trying to steal somebody's baby, because that's what they're doing, like at this point, this with the CPS and the attorney and all of that stuff. If you have a miscarriage and you think the answer is to steal someone's baby, you need professional help. And I don't just mean therapy. I mean, you need professional help, because that is not a normal response to having, to going through. And I do, like, I understand, and I know how bad it hurts to watch somebody else have a baby when that's all you want to do. But to think that you could steal somebody else's child, like, you have to understand, like, you lost a piece of your heart when you had a miscarriage. You lost what you thought you were going to have. Like, why would you want to take that away from somebody else and think that that's okay? And that should be enough to know, like, that you need professional help, because you're not in your right mind if you think that doing to someone else what happened to you is appropriate. It's just not. And it sucks, but if you start the adoption process and do something that can help you heal your heart. But at this point, I don't think a baby is going to help you right now. I think that you need to very much get your mental health in order, because this is not okay. It's not appropriate.
Question for you on this. Do you think, let's say they ended up acquiring this child from whatever means, do you think that they would still end up hitting this wall where they're like, well, we still want one that's ours?
I don't know. I mean, I can't.
I could see that happening based off of kind of how she teed it up in the beginning.
I don't know. I think she just wants something that would make her feel less hurt right now. And so for me, if you're acting out of that pain, you're not in your right mind. Like, that's just, it is what it is. You're in no position to take care of another human being right now, because you are not taking care of yourself.
It's when you get a puppy, right?
Yeah. So do something. And I don't even know if I would recommend that, because this is borderline unhinged, probably unhinged. And I don't think that you should be taking care of anything but yourself right now. And I don't know. I feel bad for her, but this is not okay.
Right. The part of this that confuses me or surprises me maybe the most is that this isn't one person. This is a couple.
Yeah.
And I would think in a couple, like, one of those people is going to be the voice of reason to be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Hold on.
They
like,
believe
that's not right.
Yeah, that's a great Barnyard. They've convinced themselves that the nephew is the baby that they've most recently lost, and that right there, unhinged. Like, you need professional.
Wow.
You need to inpatient professional help, and the fact that your husband is enabling this behavior is. That's, like you said, the fact that it's a couple makes it even worse, because they are in this together and they're feeding off of each other's. I don't know what they're feeding off of, but sadness, the entitlement here, though, is just, it's off the charts. And I feel bad for the sister that had the baby, because what a thing to deal with in your postpartum, and OP is probably still reeling from all of those miscarriages, because that many in 1 year you are not okay.
Right.
You are 100% not okay. And I hope that you see anyone going through miscarriages like that, I hope that you are seeking professional help for your mental health so that you are able to heal from what you've gone through, because it's hard as fuck. That's all I'm going to say.
I think it's one of those, like, there are some wounds that never become scars because they never heal, right?
Yeah.
And you just learn to live with those wounds as a part of who you are.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of thing this is. She's looking for something to heal that wound. Mm-hmm. And this won't heal it. And that's what worries me about if they involve CPS and if they involved attorneys and somehow ended up blackmailing her into they ended up with the kid, they would still find themselves at some point being confused and conflicted because they don't feel healed. And I think that would turn into, well, we need one of our own still. Like, and it would just be this cycle of pain trying to solve this thing that is not solvable. It's scary. It's scary. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another story for you. Title of this one is Am I the Astronaut for Not Wanting to Split Groceries with My Roommates? Comment with your vote. I, 24 female, have been living with my roommate Sarah, 26 female, for about a year now. We get along well for the most part. She's clean, pays rent on time, and isn't one of those horror story roommates you read about. But there's been this growing tension over our grocery situation that I can't shake, and I'm wondering if I'm being petty. When we first moved in together, Sarah suggested we do a joint grocery budget to make things easier. She had lived with roommates before, and she said it was way more convenient to just split the cost and share everything instead of trying to keep track of separate groceries. I agreed because it did sound easier, and at that time, I assumed we had similar eating habits. We each put in $200 a month, which seemed reasonable. But over time, I realized Sarah eats way more than I do. For context, I work in an office and usually grab lunch while I'm out. Sometimes I even skip breakfast if I'm running late and just grab coffee at work. That means I'm mainly eating at home for dinner, and even then, I cook simple meals like pasta, salad, eggs, stuff like that. Sarah, on the other hand, works from home and eats all of her meals from our groceries. She also snacks constantly. I'll buy a box of granola bars and they're gone in 2 days. If I get yogurt, I might have one before she's finished the entire pack. And don't even get me started on things like chips or cereal. I literally have never finished a full bag before she does. At first, I let it slide. I figured it evened out in some way I wasn't noticing. But then I started tracking what I was actually eating compared to what she was eating, and it wasn't even close. I brought it up casually once, like, hey, I feel like I don't eat as much as you. Maybe we should adjust how much we contribute? She kind of laughed and said, oh, I just eat what's there. Just grab more next time. So I started trying to buy things just for myself, stuff I knew she wouldn't like. I got almond butter instead of peanut butter, flavored oat milk she once had said she hated, and a weird brand of protein bars. Somehow, even those disappeared. Last month, I finally told her we should rethink the split. I suggested a system where we either contribute based on consumption or just buy our own food separately. She got really defensive, saying it's too much of a hassle to track who eats what, and that we agreed to share. She also accused me of nickel and diming over food and making things weird. I don't want to be stingy, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to pay half when I'm eating maybe a third of what she is. She's been acting cold ever since, and I'm wondering if I'm being unreasonable here, or is she just taking advantage of me? She's just taking advantage of you, and she's been acting cold and weird because she knows she's about to lose the sweet deal she's got right now. You can't split things evenly if one person works at home. Like, that person is naturally going to be at the trough more. It's just the trough? Was that the wrong thing to say?
I like to go to the trough.
Hey, I go to the trough daily. You know what I mean? It's like, what's here? Nothing looks good. That's the normal thing. This line before bed is most of the time like, I want something, I just don't know what I want. We haven't had cosmic brownies in a hot minute. Or Tim Tams. What's going on in our house? I think even if she wasn't working from home, I would say the fact that people have different tastes make this really difficult. What I would suggest, instead of, this is probably a could have done it differently. You might be like a 4 because of approach here. I think the general approach of starting a conversation with, hey, you eat a lot more than I do, probably not going to be the thing that's going to be received the best when talking girl to girl, right? That would seem like an attack from any girl, I would assume. Like, hey, you eat a lot more than I do. How about that? Problematic, not an opener to a solution-focused kind of conversation. Could be something like, hey, I would like to propose a modification to our grocery setup here because you're working here. You're here more. I'm rarely here. So I would like to suggest a hybrid approach. I would like to take a percentage of the amount that we put in right now, let's say half. That $200 combined goes to buying a set subscription of core items. Bread, eggs, milk, whatever it is. These core items or toiletries or things that are used equally throughout the home. Have it be a core set of items. Anything outside that set of items, you're on the hook to get yourself individually. And if you see something that is the first time you're seeing it, it's because it's not yours, and try not to take it. Or if you do, as long as you're open to the other person, like whatever. Suggest a hybrid system here as an olive branch, as a way to kind of just at least lead that direction in the discussion. And if you open with the reasoning for it, like you're here a lot more than me, not you eat a lot more than me, I think you'll experience a lot more success. But at the bare minimum, or let's say at its core, you have to understand that she's got the sweet end of the deal right now. You're asking her to give up the sweet end of the deal right now. You can't expect her to go quietly. You can't expect her to be happy about it, right? She probably knows she's got the sweet end of this deal right now, and you're asking her to voluntarily take on pain. And she's like, I don't want it. And you're like, well, I've got it now. I want you to have it. And she's like, I don't want it. So it's going to take some tact. Hey, Dusty Thunder here, and I wanted to thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that content, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Also, you can find swag and so much more at dusty-thunder.com, and you'll find even more content on all of our platforms. We're on TikTok, YouTube. We now have an official Facebook page that we'll be posting stories to as well. We have podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and so much more. You can see all of our content platforms on Linktree, which is linked in my bio. Engage with us wherever you're enjoying content, and do your best to avoid the Askonauts today. Thanks again.